You know, sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't hiding in the shadows. Sometimes they're the ones we think we know, the friendly neighbor, the pillar of the community. Today, we're diving into one of the most horrifying paradoxes in criminal history, the case of John Wayne Gacy.
It all comes down to a number, 33. That's how many young men and boys had their lives cut short, their bodies just discarded.
And where did all this happen? Not in some creepy, isolated cabin in the woods. Nope. It happened in the most disturbingly normal place you can imagine, the crawl space of a quiet suburban house in Chicago.
And all the while, as their bodies were literally feet beneath the floorboards, the man who put them there was busy being a great neighbor.
Get this, he would host summer barbecues for the whole neighborhood, grilling food, serving drinks, right on top of his own private, secret graveyard. It's just unbelievable.
So, the big question is, how on earth did he get away with this for so long? Well, to even begin to understand that, we've got to start with the public face of John Wayne Gacy, the man everyone thought they knew.
I mean, on paper, this guy was the absolute model citizen. He owned his own successful construction company, so he was a well-known local businessman. He was super involved in local politics, he organized community parades, he was photographed shaking hands with senators. He was so trusted that he even got U.S. Secret Service clearance for an event with the First Lady. And then there's the thing he's most famous for, right? His ultimate disguise. On the weekends, he put on makeup and became Pogo the Clown. He performed at children's hospitals, at birthday parties. This was the guy parents trusted with their kids, the friendly clown who was there to make everyone smile. Okay, so that's the public face. Now we're going to peel that back and look at the horrifying reality that was hiding just beneath the surface. So it all starts back in 1972. A 16-year-old kid named Timothy McCoy was staying the night. Gacy's story is that he woke up and saw McCoy standing in his doorway with a knife. Turns out the boy was just making breakfast. But Gacy stabbed him to death, and then, in a move that is just beyond chilling, Gacy went into the kitchen and ate the breakfast his victim had just prepared for him.
And that right there, that was the turning point for him. He said later that this first killing was the moment he realized that for him, death was, and I'm quoting here, the ultimate thrill. From that point on, he just stopped fighting his darkest urges. He decided to let them take complete control.
And after that, he didn't just kill randomly. No, he developed a system, a methodical, chillingly effective system. He'd find young men, a lot of times at bus stations or through his construction business, and he'd lure them back to his house with promises of a job. Once they were there, he'd suggest a little magic trick with handcuffs. The second those cuffs clicked shut, the trap was sprung. As you can imagine, as the number of victims grew and the bodies started piling up, well, the evidence started to seep out of the house. And I mean that quite literally. I want you to just think about this for a second. For years, people visiting his house, even his neighbors in their own backyards, they all noticed this horrible smell, a thick, kind of sweet, rotting odor that just hung in the air. The source, of course, was the bodies decomposing right under the house. So what does Gacy do when people ask about it? He has this simple, totally mundane excuse ready to go every single time. He'd just wave it off. Oh, it's just some moisture problem. You know, the soil under the house, it's nothing to worry about. And because he was this trusted community figure, people just believed him.
And this is just a grotesque detail, but by 1978, he had literally run out of room. The crawl space was full. It was packed with bodies that he'd buried in trenches dug by his own employees who had no idea what they were really digging. So he had to switch up his method and start dumping his victims in the nearby Des Plaines River.
So, this brings us to the moment where the whole facade, this whole carefully constructed world just starts to crumble. And it all happens because of one boy's disappearance.
December 1978, a 15-year-old kid named Robert Peist goes to meet a contractor about a job, and he just vanishes. That contractor was, of course, John Wayne Gacy. And this time, the police actually looked into him, and they found a prior conviction from 1968 for sexual assault, a crime he'd only served a little under 2 years for.
And from there, everything just collapses. I mean, it happens so fast. Just a few days after Peist disappeared, Gacy actually confesses to his own lawyer, casually admitting he'd killed 30 people, give or take a few. By December 22nd, police have a warrant and they start digging. The first body was just 2 feet down. They worked right through Christmas, and by the 28th, they had already pulled 26 victims from his crawl space alone.
And when it was all over, after they searched the house, the property, the river, the final count was 33. 33 young lives, all taken by this one man.
Now, you'd think the story ends there, right? With the arrest, the trial, but actually what we learned afterward reveals maybe the most chilling part of this whole thing.
So at his trial, Gacy tries to plead insanity, right? Claims he has multiple personalities, the whole thing. The jury did not buy it for a second. They found him guilty on all 33 counts in about 2 hours. He then spends the next 14 years on death row. And, bizarrely, he spends that time painting and selling pictures of clowns. He was executed in 1994, and his defiant last words were, "Kiss my ass."
But here's the thing that still haunts this case today. Even now, decades later, several of Gacy's victims are still unidentified. No family ever reported them missing. No one ever came looking for them. How is that possible? Why?
And this is where we get to the heart of his real evil. Gacy wasn't just a monster. He was a calculating one. He specifically went after boys he thought the world wouldn't look for. Runaways, kids on the street, those living on the margins of society. He knew exactly who would be missed and who wouldn't. And he built his entire house of horrors on that one cold, cruel calculation.
True Files Archive.